Hello. I haven't made a video for a while because I've been too busy working on my level editor, but in the process of developing that editor, I have been learning quite a lot more about how the files in this game work, and I think I've come up with a few interesting ways to implement those things into the editor, but I have just made a discovery about how the game loads files that is so big that I haven't even begun to think about how I could use it to my advantage with the editor. So instead, I'm just gonna share it with you. I've been tweeting a lot of pictures and videos as a result of what I found out, and people are asking me about it, so here you go. I'll try to keep this brief. I'm actually kind of ill, and I'm busy trying to organise an apartment on the other side of the planet, so I'm not gonna get too in-depth right now. I've got a lot going on, but basically what I've worked out how to do is load files from outside of the pack archives. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then this game is split up into loads of pack files, which are archives that contain lots of other files. Every level in the game has its own archive, and there's one for each of the cutscenes, there's one for Crash and one for Coco, and loads of others, and most of the modding that's happened with this game has been about editing the files within those archives. And these pack files are very self-contained, so it's easy to do things like swap stuff around within a particular level, but swapping stuff in from another level is a lot more complicated. If you've seen those Crash character skin mods, then the person who made those did it by, if we take Biker Crash for an example, extracting the Biker Crash model and all of its associated files from the archive of one of the Crash 3 motorbike levels and replacing certain files within the Crash character archive with those files. The reason why Aku Aku is invisible when you use that Biker Crash mod is because the Aku Aku textures and everything were replaced with the files for the biker skin. Because as far as I know, no one has had any luck with adding new files to an archive and accessing them. It seems that the only way to do it is to replace existing files. And that means that you can't just import the files over, you have to edit them and change all of the file references inside them to match the names of the files you're replacing instead of the originals. It's all very complicated, and that's why you don't see many people doing it. But if you could load all of those necessary files, like the textures, from outside of any archive files, then you wouldn't need to replace and modify every single file, and that would be much, much easier, right? Yes, and I'll show you how that's possible. So I'm going to use Biker Crash as a demonstration here, so let me show you what happens if I extract the Crash Biker actor from the level Hog Ride, which is one of the motorbike levels, and then replace the normal Crash actor in the Crash archive with Biker Crash, and then load the game. It doesn't actually load, it just gets stuck on the loading screen. This isn't just my computer being slow. The level will not load, it'll just stay on this screen forever unless you close the game. Luckily, this game has hidden error messages that you can see if you open it up in something like Cheat Engine, so I'm going to do that. You can see here there's a failed to build or load error relating to this file, crash_materials, Crash Biker, 01557.igz. That is a file that the Crash Biker actor is looking for in order to determine what textures it needs to load. The reason why there's an error is because the Crash Biker actor is looking for that materials file, but it doesn't exist in the Crash archive. I could import it over from Hog Ride and replace, for example, the Aku Aku materials file with it, and then edit the actor to look for the Aku Aku materials instead, but then I'd have to edit all of the textures mentioned inside that as well, and it's just so complicated. I don't want to do that. Underneath this error message is a file path. F, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah. Now, that Insane Trilogy folder is the location where my game is installed, on the F drive, but that Material Instances folder doesn't exist. And I assumed, when I first saw this, that it was just different error messages scrambled together, especially because of the mismatch of back and forward slashes. It's not uncommon to see garbled messages like that when you look through the game's memory, but just in case, for the sake of curiosity and experimentation, I decided to extract, for the purposes of this example, the Crash Biker materials file from the Hog Ride archive where it lives and save it at that exact location at Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy /material instances /actors blah blah blah. And then when I tried to load the game again, it still didn't work. But when I looked at the error messages, it was now trying to find the Crash Biker textures as opposed to the materials file, as specified by that materials file that was now present in the material instances folder I just made. So I realised that what happens is when a file in an archive references another file, the game will initially look for that file within the same archive. And if it doesn't find it, it will then look within the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy folder. And if it does find it in there, it will load that one and forget about trying to find it in the archive. So what I did then was just extract the entire contents of the Hog Ride archive into a folder and then copy everything from the output folder located here into the Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy folder, so it looked like this. And then when I ran the game this time, boom, there he is, look at him. And Aku Aku is there as well, he's not invisible, because I haven't replaced his textures. The only file I've actually imported into the Crash archive is the Crash Biker actor, which is completely unedited, it's straight from Hog Ride, and everything else is just a loose file that has been extracted from Hog Ride and moved to the right location where the game can find it. And you can use the same methods to basically play as any character, sort of. It depends on animations and stuff. And I think I'm a bit too sick to explain anything about that or doing other kinds of swaps like I've shown in some of my tweets. And I'm only just starting to explore what's actually possible with this external file loading trick. I'm even looking at some of the files from Skylanders Imaginators, and I think there might be some interesting stuff I can do with those. Like, I don't want to say playable Spyro just yet, but I mean, I'm making some progress with some of the things I've tried. But anyway, I can look at all that stuff another time when I'm less unhealthy. I just thought that this was something worth sharing for anyone who's into modding this game, and I hope you could understand what I was talking about. Thanks, bye.